Hello, and welcome to Humans of Magic. I'm your host, James Hsu. As part of my Magic Con Amsterdam adventures, I had the chance to interview a few folks when I was there. One of them is the fabulous ZBexx. I had a chance to sit down with ZBexx during the Magic Con and just talk about her evolution and journey as a creator. It's good timing because the last time we spoke was a few years ago, and she was at a crossroads in her career as a creator. And it seems like, fortunately, she's figured things out. She's bigger than ever. And we're just going to talk shop about her process. I hope you'll excuse the audio quality. We did record this in a hallway in the convention, but I think the conversation is very good. ZBexx, as always, delivers the goods and is absolutely amazing. And I hope you'll enjoy this conversation. I am here today with ZBexx at Magic Con Amsterdam. ZBexx, how are you?
I'm doing fabulous. It's so great to finally meet you in person and hang out after all these years.
Yeah, I'm sorry that the first time we did the podcast, there was no video yet. Now we have wonderful videos so folks can see you.
Well, it just goes to show you. I remember we were talking about our goals on that podcast. Maybe you can throw a sound clip in there or something, but I feel like you had wanted to get into videos. It just shows how much you've grown since we last chatted. Probably
not as much as you've grown. Take me through, I feel like that one was a million years ago, but just in terms of, it's been 2 or 3 years since then. Maybe we'll actually, before the grandiose topic, let's just talk about just you visiting Amsterdam right now.
Yes.
With your partner and how that has been going.
It's been going really well. I love the Netherlands. I didn't know that I love fries as much as I do. Potatoes are really good here.
Okay.
There's a bunch of really good food. I've been enjoying the sights. Went to museums, went like the Rijksmuseum and a theme park about an hour or two south called Efteling. Mm-hmm. So I've been told I've gotten the true Dutch experience.
Okay.
I've been really loving it.
Was it a lot of research ahead of time? Did you look at any guides or anything?
Not really. Ash Lizzle actually recommended Efteling when I was first looking at coming. Like, I made a post, what should I see? And I was like, oh, I love theme parks. Mm-hmm. So that was a pretty easy conclusion to draw.
Right.
Yeah, I did look at like what neighborhood. We stayed in an apartment before coming over to the hotel at the convention center. Mm-hmm. So we did get to stay in the Jordan neighborhood where there's a bunch of little shops and more of the canals and the like Anne Frank house, which we didn't get tickets to. So apparently that goes out 6 weeks in advance.
That early?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's okay. We opted for some other museums.
That's great. And if I understand, this is the first time for you in the Netherlands?
Yes.
Okay. How have you found, just in general, other than these destination sites, just the people and the culture and just what have you experienced or observed?
Everybody speaks English, which is really nice, as I tried to pick up a little bit of Dutch, and it's not really the way I've made my tongue and consonant vowel sounds before. Sure. So I tried to say the simplest thing that I learned to our cab driver, and he was like, no, you mean this. So I stopped trying to speak bad Dutch after the first day. But everybody's really friendly, and we've been visited a couple of restaurants and bars repeat when we were staying at the apartment, and people are like, oh, I remember you. You came the other night, right? And so that's just a nice rapport. I always like having that when I go someplace at home. So yeah, I really like Netherlands. I didn't really know what to expect. Well, I mean, what did you know about it before coming here?
I've been here way back in 2010,
wow.
But feels like a lifetime ago. And I do want to say, like, one thing I do feel this time, and maybe it was like that before too, but especially when I compare it to Canada or US, people just seem friendlier in general. So I'll give you an example. When someone passes me on a bike and I'm walking, if there's eye contact, then they'll kind of give you a smile or a nod. Whereas I feel like in North America, that's less of a thing. Maybe in certain parts of the US or Canada, but not in the big cities. People kind of keep to themselves.
I often get told from my Californian friends in Oregon that I'm way too nice. They're like, you just say hi to everybody and you're smiling at everybody. I'm like, yeah, it's nice to see people. And they're like, don't do that. I'm like, why? They're like, you're just giving off too much. But it is. The people here are more like that, where they like
That's kind of how you're raised. Like, you are outwardly friendly by nature. That's because of where you're from and just your upbringing? Or?
And it's probably the same here because I've had so many Dutch people tell me that they're so happy to see Magic host the con here. And even people who don't know that Magic's here, they know people are from out of town and they just have a lot of pride. So, yeah, I probably have the same level of pride in everything I do. But, yeah, I feel like maybe in Canada and other parts of the United States, it is much more of a melting pot. I know when I've traveled to Canada, I've met people who had moved from other countries and ended up in Canada.
Yeah.
Or same thing, with the United States.
Yeah, for
where
sure.
Netherlands just has they're Dutch. In American, we're like, oh, what's your background or whatever. Mm-hmm. We're not just we're American.
Yes.
We don't say that.
Maybe online, but not IRL or.
Yeah, we're not go America. Well, I mean, some people might, but we're not at cons. We're not. We don't have totem flags at concerts with our nationality or anything.
So tell me. I guess we were talking a bit before the recording, but tell me a bit about what it's like to travel with your partner, who I now know is involved with Magic too, and is a very nice guy. I met Brock, I guess, just a few days ago at one of the hotels nearby.
Yes.
And what's it like to travel as a unit?
It's great traveling with my partner. I have someone to take photos of me when I want to do my social media posts, and he's often much better at finding places to eat that we'll both like. So unless I have group plans, then I usually let him pick the food. He knows what I like, so he'll make sure to find stuff. So it's just one less thing that you have to do.
So he's very resourceful in that sense.
Yes. And at a Magic Con, when you're like, okay, what deck do I have to bring? What time do I have to get to this event? Or go watch this panel or be on this panel? Whatever it is that you might be doing. Sometimes you forget the food aspect and just a little reminder, just checking in with each other, so... Yeah.
I guess the other thing I want to ask about is just, it must be nice to have a partner or spouse that is very supportive of what you do. I have to imagine that he's very supportive, otherwise he would not be traveling with you. And I mean, how's that been?
Well, so he is very supportive, but it's funny because when I started going to events and Grand Prix, I was more supporting him. Before I was cosplaying in the ZBexx that me, I was grinding in events because he wanted to go play the Grand Prix and qualify.
Okay. He was also into that too.
And so I've made a couple of day twos myself. I'm not nearly as good of a player as he is, but I definitely have learned we love
you can
playing.
hold your own for sure.
Oh yeah, and playing 1 versus 1. It's a lot more intense than it used to be 10 years ago or 13 years ago when I started playing Magic. So yeah, it's funny because, of course, he supports me, but we both really love Magic, and we both are involved in our family game store, Addicted Behaviors. So it's a fun trip, but it's also a work trip.
It's also business.
Yeah, so it's business for both of us, but it's fun for both of us. We both have our own things that we're looking at and keeping track of, so it's nice.
Is there a part of you there must still be a part of you that's the Magic grinder?
Yeah.
But that is a bit different from the other parts of Magic, or maybe what you, I dare say, maybe more of what your content is focused on now. I shouldn't say that, because you do have legacy content, you do have competitive gameplay stuff too.
It's just because, probably over half or over 75% of the people who are listening or watching to this now, they probably would say that they play Commander most. So, yes, I make a little bit more Commander content or cosplay content that has to do with Commander because it's more popular. So, but I still love playing 1v1. That's always my preference. If the Magic Cons don't feel like the Grand Prix. They've got all the festival stuff. So if I'm going to come and cosplay, it doesn't make sense for me to tie myself down at a table where people can't find me for 9 hours at a day. I still want to do that.
Sure.
But I do have the good fortune of loving making cosplays and having the opportunity with Wizards and other brands to get to travel. So, why would you
Yeah.
be in 9 hours of competitive Magic if you can go around and have time to talk with your friends? Like if I was playing in the same sealed event that my partner is playing in right now, I would not be able to be doing this little interview with you right now. So
grateful for that.
Yeah.
Yes, that you branched out the horizons.
Yeah, and you saved the opponents from having to face me.
Okay. Because I guess on the table must be pretty serious about in the moment, right?
Yeah, which is why I build silly theme decks for Commander, like Oops All ZBexx cosplays, because I can't take Commander seriously, because too many things can happen where this person does something or that person does the thing, or you decide we're going to go against that person, but the card that you played for that person screws me over even though I wasn't the problem. Like, that doesn't happen in 1v1 games.
Yeah.
I know what I'm playing, you know what you're playing, you might draw something. No, there's not going to be someone else who comes in and says, well, here's an extra card. Wait, what? I want a free card.
Yeah, exactly. And have you felt any evolution to your content since the last time we talked? Let's just say over the last 2 or 3 years, have there been, because one thing you're touching on is, and I feel this as well, it's like the need to be, this is almost like inside baseball, but like the need to be pragmatic, like you're trying to find things that connect with people, try to go wide. There's that aspect, but like what other parts of ZBexx do you think have evolved or matured?
Well, I love the Magic community, and I feel like there's only so many people in the world who play Magic. So my content had to evolve when I felt like I hit the 100,000 marks on different platforms. I was like,
you mentioned that last time. You had certain goals for
certain
platforms, and I'm pretty sure you hit them.
Yeah.
So,
And TikTok, I think, was the main thing I focused on last time. And since I have been posting everything to YouTube, a lot of it's it's the same video on TikTok that you see on YouTube, but different people use those platforms, and they've both grown. And part of that has been because I have been doing other things besides Magic content. I've been doing a lot of theme park content when I travel. I've been making sure to cosplay different characters outside of Magic. In fact, I try to post one Magic cosplay a week and one non-Magic cosplay a week. Where before, I think I would post like 3 Magic cosplays in a day, or like Magic cards would be like all 7 days of the week you'd see Magic. Now I'm playing Disney Lorcana, so I have reasons to be involved in other IPs and franchises. I've dabbled in Star Wars Unlimited, and I would like to get into it more once the second set comes out and more products available. All these games have all the same problems that Magic has had at one point. Yeah, so it's been nice though, because people who play those other games, no, I've played Magic before. Oh, that's kind of cool. Maybe I'd get back into it. Or, oh, it's not for me, but we can play this game together. So I felt like I needed to shift my content to continue growing. And I have other interests besides Magic, believe it or not. So, and I love Disney movies and dressing up like princesses. We don't get princesses too often in Magic. Mm-hmm. Like we got Chandra in a wedding dress.
Right.
But
different
vibe. Yeah, so it's been fun. I've always been about having fun, and I think there's only so much excitement you can get across sitting at a table playing cards to somebody who's not a Magic player.
Right. Because
your Magic content probably is shown to people who don't play Magic. It's just whether or not they're interested enough to stay on or like maybe you said something interesting, or they saw something in your background that was enough to keep them on. Yeah.
There's something interesting about theme parks. I remember watching recently that 4-hour YouTube review on the Star Wars experience that Disney did.
Oh, the hotel thing?
The hotel thing,
yeah.
Which apparently they've already canceled.
Yeah.
But it's so fascinating because it's like this real life MMORPG thing that they try to do, probably a little too ambitious for its own good, which is why
it was too soon to the pandemic, I think, too.
Oh, the timing too.
Yeah, it didn't help them.
It was also crazy expensive. It was something like
$7,000, right?
Something for that for like a few nights, and I think they justify it by saying it's comparable to a Disney resort, but I don't know. As someone who's like probably knows that area better than I do, I was just so drawn by that video.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I don't know if I don't know. It just randomly came to mind.
I feel like when you've traveled enough and you know the price of flights and hotels, you're like, that's still exorbitantly high. Like, I could come to Amsterdam on $7,000 versus a weekend in a Star Wars themed hotel, which if you're obsessed about something enough that maybe you want to have it like themed as your wedding, you're just like, I could see you feeling like that was worth the money. For me, I'm like, it's interesting and it was a cool idea, but maybe if it gets cheaper, or after being to some other theme parks besides Disney, I'm like, well, is the Disney theming really all worth it? I still love Disney, but I'm like, it's
a premium.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. You get the characters, you get like Star Wars droids, like when else are you going to get that? So it just depends on, I feel like, the same thing with buying a Magic deck. Are you really passionate about it? Do you really like it? Are you going to buy that art piece that you're not going to play with because it's just going to sit there?
Yeah. So about your method of just mixing up Magic with other types of content, and I hear what you're saying, which is about your still true very much to your brand. Like it's about joy, it's about positivity, it's about enjoying yourself, right?
Yeah.
But it can be not just a card game or one card game. Having said that, I am wondering, like, because just also as a player, I see the Magic releases has always been in overdrive, especially now more than ever.
Yeah.
And so do you feel anything about just like any sort of challenge with keeping up, especially as you're trying to diversify into other things, or do you figure out a system that works?
Well, this is a great question that you asked me, because I met a European Legacy player. He's like, oh yeah, the only content I do is Legacy. He's like, all I play is Legacy anymore. And then I was asking him what deck he plays, and he's like, oh, I'm on Eldrazi this weekend. And I was like, oh, like with like white with Eldrazi Displacer, and he's like, no, it's like old school. And I was like, oh, like Reality Smasher, and then he was like, no, it has the new Modern Horizons 3 cards in it. And confession, I have not looked at like all of the Modern 3 Horizons spoilers, and it's been out for like 3 weeks.
That's
now?
Okay. Me too.
Okay, and I was like, oh, I'll have to look at your deck and come and find you today so I can see all the cards and maybe try your list in my shop or something. But I played the Modern Horizons 3 Commander decks because I was featured on Decked Out. And so I got to see Commander cards, but none of those are the same that are in the set. So it does affect me, where then people are like, oh yeah, Nadu. And I'm like, yeah, Nadu. Like but I'm like, I haven't really taken the time to look at the card or read the combos that are people. With the card. No, I haven't played a single game with the card. And I'm sure it'll be banned after this weekend before I even need to think about it.
Right.
So at some point with the overdrive of releases, you just have to pay attention to it kind of before it's relevant. So even Disney, Lorcana, they've got releases on the seasons 4 times a year, like Magic Standard kind of is.
Sure.
And so we recorded for the 4th set before coming, and we're going to get back in a couple weeks and need to record for the 5th set soon. But it's been a longer amount of time, but it feels like it was just last week, because I'm just keeping that information for what I need. And I wish Wizards would slow down just a little bit, but also there's going to be things that I'm just not going to pay attention to, and it's going to be okay. Like Assassin's Creed, haven't looked at any of those cards either, except I think she's maybe Naya colored or something, or Mardush. There's a girl who like looks like my face, and enough people are like, you need to cosplay that. So I was like, okay,
so now maybe. It's on the radar.
Yeah, like I've seen that card. Still haven't read the text, but I can't tell you the name.
Okay. But so you know just enough to be dangerous, or enough to
I
do your
scroll
thing.
Twitter every day, and I can be like, oh yeah, did you know this is happening in the Magic community? Some event tried to do this and not pay people or whatever, and I'm like, oh, someone on the East Coast, you know.
I do. Yeah, I think you're very consistent with that. I have noticed that in terms of social, you focus basically on positivity.
Yes.
And not too much on negativity.
Stuff happens where you see it and you're like, all right, people are unhappy that Nadu's getting paid, or, there's only so much time in the world that I have to fill thoughts with my brain, so I choose to make them positive and inspiring. And there really is something. I have people in my Discord who are a part of my encouragement group, and we try to support each other and trying to encourage people to get on the think track of saying good things about themselves, like not being like, wow, I suck at magic, like I'm gonna draw better next time, or I learned from this, just flipping the script so that the glass is half full instead of half empty.
So positive self-talk.
Yeah, and it's crazy because if you just believe in yourself and repeat to yourself, like, I'm a professional cosplayer, I need to say it enough, I'm a professional cosplayer. I think definitely I'm a professional cosplayer, but I've been saying it for probably a lot longer than I felt it. So just whatever that is that you're trying to do, or even just like, my favorite with the positive talking is not, I will win the or I'm going to win the magic tournament. Like, I've won the magic tournament. You have to say it like definitively, like it's almost already happened.
Okay,
and then,
tense.
yeah, and like you're like, yeah, and some way it tricks your brain into like, yeah, I've got the ability because I've already done it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever that applies to, whatever you're thinking of, just that's all about my brand. And you can get through all of the horrible things that happen every day, whether you're just having a bad day, like we woke up and stubbed your toe, or if you saw something on the news and it's really affecting you, because there's a lot of stuff going on. You just have to focus in on what's going to help you get through the day and do what you can for others. But you have to fill your own cup first before you're able to serve others. So
that is something a friend told me recently, which is just about the filling the cup, you need to have more self-compassion, or one should have more self-compassion for oneself when things are not going well, or just whatever happens, right? I'm just wondering, where does that knowledge, where does that confidence come from for you?
I have a really cool friend. Her name's Brittany. She goes by BZen Wellness online. She was a bridesmaid in my wedding, so that's how close we are. But she's a yoga teacher trainer and a breathwork facilitator, and I feel like if you're just around the right people enough, you just hear the right things enough. And, when you travel with friends, even if they're just like, hey, how are you doing? Have you drank any water today? Did you take a shower yet? Like, have you eaten any breakfast yet today? Like, just making sure that your basic needs are met.
Just watching out for you.
Yeah, and then if you just remember when you're by yourself, have I met my basic needs today? Like, it's such a simple question, but if you're having a bad day, making those choices. And then I read a lot of books I like to reread some of books that are positive.
Any ones you recommend?
Yeah, Think and Grow Rich.
Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, I love that book. I've probably read it like 10 or 20 times. Mm-hmm. But the concept of a mastermind group, surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals or talented individuals. I always like to imagine, they say to picture like celebrities or historical figures or role models. So I like to put Lady Gaga and Britney Spears and, Michelle Obama and just a bunch of powerhouse females at my table and think, what would they say? And, maybe that's not your group or who you look up to. But for me, I'm like, how can I be motivating and inspiring, a leader of example? And then that, I hope, reflects into my content and inspires other people to just make good choices.
Right.
So there's really you could take it and do anything with it. And I meet so many people that have so many different hobbies and enjoyments, and just the more we share that, like, I definitely was a pageant girl and I definitely would like world peace. But I mean, how can you achieve world peace? That kind of is like what I think about. Like, you have to create happiness or joy. Mm-hmm. So.
Were there particular times in your content creator career where you felt really challenged or tested? Because you have these values and you have the right people around you, but were there certain times where you weren't sure that if you were going to be able to keep going?
probably the last time that we talked was.
Oh, it was really? Okay.
I
so
feel
it was actually
like
kind of a down point.
I was maybe not a down point, but definitely a plateau.
Okay.
Like there was a certain point with content creation, you look at numbers. That's like kind of the only metric or wager you have to figure out how you're doing. And like followers, I had kind of plateaued at like, I forget, like 60 or 80K, something like that. And I was like, just stop growing. And I'm like, well, maybe there's not more Magic players. Well, that's clearly not true because you look at the attendance here and everybody's here.
Yeah.
So it's just
what did you have to do?
Honestly, step away for a bit.
Oh.
There was...
I thought you were going to say grind harder and you made like 3 times more content.
No. I mean,
just kidding.
The funny thing is, I feel like my content has definitely shifted, and I unfortunately have not produced as much new content as I used to, but I just don't worry about it. I really had to post a bunch of random stuff. I started posting about my plants, which I'm not a gardener, but I'm trying to get for advice because I'm killing them.
I see.
Or just, I started posting more fashion things and tried to just do things that I wanted to post. I felt like at a certain point I was trying to please Magic players, and maybe the plateau is because I was getting away from myself. And the break isn't really evident. Like, you're not going to be able to go back and find it. But there was probably
there's
time.
a mental break somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. And I don't know what really changed it, but definitely I have a viral Princess Peach video. And it was really random because I happened to be at Loading Ready Run to record.
Okay.
And we were just waiting, like, on the couches. And I was like, I'm going to post this video from Universal Studios Japan, and I just hit post while I was there and kind of put some text on it. Like, I didn't even have the sound on to hear, I didn't add music, I just kind of was like, I'll just post this. And then literally the next day I'm like, wow, it has like 1 million views, and 100,000 is blowing up to me. So I'm like 1 million already.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Oh, so yeah, I mean, but I think the stepping back of not caring, truly, I was just there. I was literally sitting next to Daquan and Chase, talking while posting. If you focus in on it too much, you will destroy yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really? So you felt being close to destruction almost.
I wouldn't
you
say
knew
that I
enough
was
to
gonna.
Step back,
yeah, I was gonna say I don't think I've truly felt burnout, but I've definitely felt the pressure of people want you to stream on Twitch. That's probably the biggest thing for me is people always want to play Commander with me. And
yes.
In 2000, I think that was the thing is when we last talked, I was probably hosting ZEDH at least twice a week, if not once a week. And so hosting Commander games on Twitch, and I was doing 2 games a night, so 4 hours straight.
Regardless of enjoyment or not, it takes a lot of energy.
It does.
It takes a lot.
And I found that streaming really isn't my favorite thing. If I have the wrong headache, the bright lights just get me.
I see.
So it was a big shift where I actually didn't stream on Twitch for a full year, and I felt kind of bad for my community because I was like, sorry, I just don't have time to focus on it.
But you gotta focus on yourself.
Yeah, I had some personal things going on, I had a pet pass away.
Oh,
so,
sorry. Yeah.
But yeah, I have a new puppy now, and she's great. But just not having that pressure of, gosh, I used to figure out the perfect 4-person pod. I'd have people fill out a Google form and match up the decks so that they were about the same power level. And then every time one of the 3 people couldn't make it, and it's always okay. Life happens. I like to be very understanding, but you're like, I will just get someone from my Discord now to go with my perfectly curated pod. And I think that ate at me more, that I had put all of the time, and it takes more time messaging individual people and even being 24 hours before. Remember, we're playing together tomorrow, and then
it's a lot of administrative stuff.
Yeah, and so I think really cutting that out actually is if I had continued trying to do that, I would have destructed.
Okay.
But since I cut that out, now...
And you saw where it was headed, so...
Yeah, and I still know that people really want to play Commander with me, so now I have a community day that I try to do once a month.
Okay.
And it's maybe only one Commander game, but it's back,
Yes.
in a limited capacity.
In smaller doses.
I can handle that.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
And I've found that I like, strangely, even though I just said I don't like streaming, I've found that I like streaming more now because I wasn't putting as much pressure on myself. And I have done a lot more like cosplay, work in progress streaming, and I was so surprised at Magic Con Chicago when I had done a lot of live work on my Paradise Mantle cosplay. The number of people, it was probably like 20 the whole weekend, which for them all to come up and say, I loved watching you work on your cosplay, and whether it was for I co-worked with you, or I just needed something on in the background. It's cool to see your cosplay from start to finish. I never knew how much work went into it. All these different comments where I was like, I'm always embarrassed to craft because I cuss more, or I get frustrated. I don't want to be on camera because I don't want to be like,
you want to be more
having a moment.
Perhaps.
Yeah. And also if I'm just going to go craft, I might just be in a grungy t-shirt with my hair pulled back and definitely not putting makeup on if I'm just going to go sew. So some, like, it's finding that balance and just being okay with being in my workspace. So that's the biggest shift, is like finding new ways where I'm like, I kind of was going to not do that anymore. I'm like, okay, I will keep casually streaming cosplay work in progress when I feel like it. For this cosplay, Asika, I streamed maybe one day of it. And then I felt like the travel to Amsterdam was getting so close, and I had so many things to make sure were tied up before leaving home that I was just like, not streaming it. But my next cosplay, I'll stream again.
Okay.
So
you're pretty dedicated to cosplay, because that's one thing that you cannot put down. So I guess those are your roots, but I mean, what keeps you in it continuously? Because I mean, this weekend you're doing multiple costumes. You put a lot of craft into it. Like, I'm not a cosplay expert, but I can tell that there's a certain art, there's a certain like bar that you have set for yourself. So
what keeps me in it? The joy, the fans. It brings me so much joy. I look at myself and I'm like, am I really Asika? Like, I transform. Like, when I wear a dark black haired wig for Liliana, I get kind of sassy and get really snappy at my partner.
You try to get into the character.
Not intentionally with Liliana. I get so snappy. I'm like, open the door for me. Close the door. Watch my veil. Ah! And I'm like, and then I get in and I breathe and I say, sorry, I was so snappy. Yeah. So it's kind of fun. Yeah. It's a way to be on stage without being in a dress rehearsal and only set in one place at one theater with tickets that you have to purchase. It's a global stage. Yeah.
So when it comes to the fan feedback, whether it's cosplay or otherwise, like, how do you, as a creator, how do you interpret them? Because I'll just tell you, just on my side, it's like, usually you don't hear a lot of, so I guess my extreme gross generalization is like, either the feedback is so negative sometimes as to be, there's nothing there that's like constructive, or it's just, you're great and there's no detail. It's like, at least in my world, that's how it has been sometimes. And I'm just wondering how you, I guess maybe the better question is, how do you connect with your fans or your audience? Like, yeah.
I like to check out my fans and friends' content when I have time. So I will, if someone takes the time to comment on my post, every once in a while I'll click on theirs and see like, oh, are they making magic content? Like, oh, they're putting effort in. Okay, I'll go put a comment on theirs. Because I remember what it was like to only have 100 followers or 1,000 followers, or maybe only 10, when you're just like, okay, I've got my friends from high school who are following me. Cool. Not. But it's important to see that new people are creating things, and I think it's really cool because I see so many more female or non-binary trans creators that I don't feel like there was a way before, and I like to think that I've been a big part of helping pave that way for people. So being connected to people online, it's great.
Okay, well, I'll cut this part out if I'm wrong, but I believe you are involved with certain groups like Birds of Paradise, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so do you want to just say a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Birds of Paradise is a great group that, well, let me back up a little bit.
Yeah.
So initially, I was part of She Sparks, and around the same time that She Sparks was founded, Birds of Paradise was founded, and we both had very similar missions of increasing representation and having more inclusivity for all genders and all peoples attending an event. And we decided to have a coming together because we're stronger together. We already were doing the same things. So now, Birds of Paradise, it's the same all-inclusive mission. And the cool thing that Birds of Paradise does with some of the structural organization that the founders set up is they fundraise and they try to provide opportunities to help, whether it's hotels, often like a group Airbnb, or flights to a certain event, or even just if they know someone who knows an event organizer and might be able to get someone a badge so that they can go, so they don't have to pay for the badge. Just things so that we can be at the events. Yeah, just a little bit. And it's kind of similar to like a scholarship program. Like, we only have this much money. Like, who can we give it to where it's going to be put best? But it's little things like that that it's so cool to see. In 2 years, more people are actually able to attend events because of this, and therefore the representation is more visible because we have more people at the events. It just all feeds on top of itself.
Yeah, making a tangible difference there.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, are you allowed to talk about like what kind of is it like an ongoing thing? Are there certain things planned for the future for BOP or?
So I had just been a part of BOP for about 3 months since we joined up, and there's a lot of people now that are part of BOP. I think when I joined on, it was 20. I think they added something like 27 more. So it's a rotational group of creators that if you want to be involved and part of the community, you don't have to be a woman, or you can be a man to be part of Birds of Paradise's Discord.
All genders, right?
Yes, you can support and show that you appreciate the inclusion and find out when we're going to have spaces at events.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm excited to see where we'll go next. I know that there's hopes to work with Wizards to have a space at events. There was in Vegas, there was a VML BOP co-booth. So,
how about your strategies working with, this might be too inside baseball. If you don't want to answer, it's fine. But just like, sponsorships, partners, business partners, things like that. Has your approach changed as well? Like maybe from 2-3 years ago to now? I assume you're getting more opportunities, but also with opportunities, you also have to be more perceptive, I would say, in terms of or strategic in terms of what to pursue or not, because
I definitely get way more junk mail ads from fake things that I'm like,
just
yeah,
like copy
this
and paste
is
emails, right?
Yeah, I'm like, great. I don't want to sell your product on
Hi,
TikTok
Leslie.
Shop.
Yeah.
Like the number of those that I'm getting, I'm like, okay, so I delete a lot. Google spam filter apparently does not work well for my purposes.
Or they figure out a way through the Google spam.
They do. So my goal with working with brands has always been a brand that I like using. I've never wanted to be a sellout and just market something because they're giving me money.
Okay, at least it's quality, or you would vouch for it in the real world. Basically.
Yeah, and so fortunately, I've connected with some really cool brands like Ultimate Guard, and when I first got to meet them, I met them because they were involved with helping out with the face-to-face events in Canada and supporting them. So it was like, wow, you're really involved in the community and not just pushing products to LGSs, but you're trying to do stuff. And so I really admired that and approached them first. And that was really the first time I had approached them. Other brands have often approached me. Mm-hmm. And I'm definitely looking for brands outside the Magic sphere because Magic, love you Magic brands, but you're over. Yes. It's funny.
Disney, please come knocking.
At the end of the year in 2023, I had made like a goal list, and something I had searched today, I searched for Amsterdam, and one of my goals was to come to MC Amsterdam. One of the other ones was to have a sponsored cosplay by Disney. I don't remember writing that, but I saw it this morning. So yes, I would love to have Disney sponsor me. Come be a commentator, had a Lorcana challenge.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
I've gotten a few preview cards, so
Okay,
I'm on the right path.
Okay.
And Lorcana is new, and they're growing their programs just as how Magic Con has grown.
Yeah.
So
about that, so first of all, two things. First of all, you just need to believe it. As you said, you have to have past tense. I already got the Disney sponsorship, and then you'll get it, right?
Yeah.
You have to visualize it into existence.
Yeah, and so now that I've seen that, I'm like, okay, after Amsterdam, it's going to be a little, maybe you might see more Disney content for me because I'm wanting to appeal to them.
Right.
So.
Also, something you may not know about Humans of Magic is that for obvious reasons, like all the talks with folks in the last half year or year, they've all involved like slivers of Lorcana in some way.
Oh, really?
Because it's just so adjacent to Magic, and a lot of people really got into it. And from what I hear, I haven't played it yet. It's not distribution is not there in China yet, but I understand it's coming to the China market. But
cool.
So I think somebody told me that on the Lorcana website, like they're actually hiring like someone to do like Chinese localization. So it's like the word is out, like that's happening, and I think it's going to be huge there as well, like everywhere, because it's Disney. But what I'm trying to say is that from what a lot of people told me, like it's very similar to Magic in terms of mechanics, so it's easy to pick up, and B, it does seem to be a pretty good, well-designed game, and Ravensburger seems to actually care about the player base. So I don't know, has that matched your experience? I mean, I don't know if you have like peeves with Lorcana or...
No, I mean, so my first impression of Ravensburger was at Gen Con, and Gen Con has a rule about no lines, no queues the night before. Really? Yeah, so there was like a big drama where people who had camped out since like midnight were told like there's no line, and so then people who showed up later
so they
got
for
in
nothing,
front of them.
Or
kind of, yeah. So that was the Gen Con's a 4-day event, and that was the first day. And I had something going on, so I wasn't going to try to stand in line until the second day. Yeah. Well, Gen Con realized like with masses of people who were actually crowding. Yeah, we need a line. We need organization. So the second day, Ravensburger, this is my first impression of Ravensburger. And honestly, it was I felt like it was a little bit of Gen Con staff messing things up, not Ravensburger. But Ravensburger knew everybody was there for their product. And we got there at 6 a.m. in the morning. You were allowed to camp out starting at 6 p.m. the night before. I was like, we'll get our sleep and go in the morning.
Yeah.
But Ravensburger, they knew that people were going to be in line. They brought coffee, they brought donuts, they brought hot chocolate. Okay. They were going up and down the line handing out Lorcana pins, which are the same pins that a lot of people had to wait to get from the league events, or some stores were like greedy and holding on to them and not passing them out. You know, it happens in business.
So they knew they had a hit. They knew it was going to happen.
And they were handing out all that stuff. So I felt like Ravensburger did a really good job of crowd control when it wasn't even really their fault. So that was my first impression of them.
Okay, so it was a positive first impression.
Yeah, and then even seeing pictures from the first challenges in Atlanta and Lille, France, they had really cool staging that I hadn't really seen until Magic Cons came around with the Dominaria ship or the Shivan Dragon or Archangel Elspeth or even Emrakul now today. But theirs was... It's so Disney.
It's so Disney?
But the way that they had a stage, they had like big light things that have their Lumineer magic and whatever, and they had like a cool like card on display that you could like take your picture with, but it was more like in a storybook. Like I don't know what it felt like since I wasn't there, but like the pictures that I saw, I was like, oh wow, this is like not just an event in a convention hall.
Disney is good with the physicalness of
stuff,
right?
Like it looked like you almost walked into a Disney theme park in this little section of the stage where they had it. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like that gives me hope for Lorcana.
Okay. So hopefully it's going to last.
I think it will. I definitely think it will.
And someone told me it's basically like they could go infinite in terms of content, because you could do like alternate reality versions of every character, like Aladdin, Simba, and I guess they're already doing that, right?
And even in the first chapter.
Even in the first chapter, okay.
That's the whole thing, is like the whole concept is that your cards are glimmers and you're using your ink and your inkwell, and so you're essentially potentially writing new stories with new characters. Yeah, but they're like, you might have a Cinderella that you recognize, but she's in a full suit of armor like a knight, which is cool. She can be a heroic Cinderella. So
what would you do if Disney gave you the sponsorship tomorrow? Would you have to completely change the way you do content? No, just continue being ZBexx.
I think my content is very family friendly. I try not to cuss. I try even not to pick sound bites. I reposted one recently that's like, I don't give a bleep.
Okay.
Like, but I really think about that and try to be conscious of the sounds that I pick if they have a lot of cussing in the rap music and such. So I think Disney would be fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like you said, I'm positive, I'm joy. I think that goes along with their Making Magic brand.
Right.
Which is ironic, making magic. I already make magic, so I go with the brand.
Yes, another type of magic.
Yeah. I'm sure that if Disney sponsored me tomorrow, I would have to work a little bit on my verbiage of saying other TCGs and probably not name drop magic.
Okay,
so there might be some mental
like some adjustments.
Practice I would have to do.
Yeah. But it doesn't change that much.
No, and I would do whatever character they wanted me to do, you know? Like, I know fans want me to do Rapunzel next, but if they told me, we've got this and we'd like you to show up, I will make it happen. Okay,
let's say it wasn't the fans or Disney. Like, what's your bucket list of Disney cosplays?
I really do like Rapunzel, but I honestly don't like the idea of having such a heavy wig because this is already
because
long.
of the Rapunzel's hair.
Yeah, so I think Elsa would be my one. She's just so popular with the kids. Okay. Did you see Frozen right when it came out?
It was explosive. It was such a massive event.
I didn't see Frozen until like maybe 6 or 7 years after it had come out because I was busy with like adulting
and
stuff.
I don't have kids, so I just witness other folks' kids like going.
So have you watched the movie?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so because I hadn't seen it for so long, but I'd seen Elsa and Anna and I knew the characters. Then I watched the movie. I was like, Elsa's mean, she's irresponsible, and all these little girls love Elsa, and I'm like, she's an awful role model. Anna, that's the one we like. And so when I see little girls in Anna costumes, I'm like, they're the real sweethearts.
That's what's up. Yeah.
But so then I'm like,
that is hilarious.
I do like choosing characters that are popular.
Okay.
I found that I like choosing the weird ones in Magic, and it's fun making people guess. But it is a little bit more fun just to be recognized without having to do the whole guessing game.
Yes. Does that also mean you have a very good rendition for Let It Go? Because, that comes with the territory, right?
I can sing.
Okay.
I'm a soprano too, so I think it's in my range, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very much so.
And if I can, I'll just play it on the viola or something.
Nice. Well, ZBexx is great chatting with you today.
Oh, this was so great.
Yeah, thank you for just giving me the update, or folks the update about what's been going on, and I wish you all the best.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's so great to get to chat, and for all of these years, people are going to have to go hunt down that podcast now to hear retro ZBexx.
I'll put it in the description or in the YouTube comments or something.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah. Wish you a good rest of the Magic Con.
Thank you so much, and same to you. I'm glad we finally connected in person.